Thank you. Mr. Chairman, it's suggested that it's hypocritical to criticize Hillary Clinton for mishandling documents and yet defend Donald Trump. Let me point out the glaring differences. In the case of Hillary Clinton, she placed tens of thousands of government documents, including highly classified information, on a private server with less security than a Gmail account. She was not prosecuted for that. Indeed, President Trump said at the time he was glad she was not prosecuted because that would make us look like a banana republic. Unlike any other public official, the president is the only person in the government who can use classified information in any way he likes. You might criticize how he does it, but it's not illegal. What we find frightening is this glaring double standard between the two cases. Hillary Clinton did not have authority to declassify material at will and was not prosecuted. Donald Trump did have that authority and yet has been subjected to an unprecedented and unwarranted armed raid. Now, my colleagues are absolutely correct to criticize in the strongest terms anyone who suggests a recourse to violence. That is antithetical to the fundamental principles upon which our country was founded. There is, unfortunately, a lunatic fringe in politics on all sides, and it ought to be condemned and marginalized by all sides. And we certainly do. In America, we talk out our differences. That is specifically what this institution is designed to do. That's the essence of democracy. Talking out our differences without fear of the Department of Justice assigning threat tags to us or being singled out by the IRS for our political views. What is dangerous to a democracy is politicizing our law enforcement agencies, not based on the rule of law and equal justice under law, but based on the political views of their targets. We just learned, as has been pointed out, that one of the sources of the false information that underpinned the Russian collusion hoax was paid by the FBI. From the Durham investigation, we know the FBI lied to the FISA court to obtain search warrants against the Trump campaign. This hoax, aided and abetted by a federal agency to which we give terrifying powers, affected 2 presidential elections and undermined the elected president and his administration for 4 years. We now know that during the 2020 election, the FBI actively suppressed on social media entirely accurate stories in the New York Post that documented Biden family influence peddling, material which many Americans later told pollsters would have affected their vote if they'd known about it at the time. The most chilling words I've heard in this committee was what was just heard from a member who said, the FBI is law enforcement. Well, the FBI is not law unto itself. The FBI is an agency that we give terrifying powers, the power to destroy lives, in the trust that it will defend the Constitution and enforce the laws equally and justly. When those powers are applied to affect the outcome of elections and to apply laws differently depending on the political viewpoints of their targets, that is something that is lethal to democracy. It's a betrayal of the Constitution, it's a threat to the rule of law, and those responsible for the abuse of these powers must be held accountable, and if this committee won't, who will? Criticism of the FBI's conduct in these and other matters is not an attack on law enforcement. It is the FBI's conduct that is the attack on law enforcement. Holding it accountable is a defense of the rule of law and the foundational principle of equal justice under law upon which just law enforcement depends. And I say again, if the Judiciary Committee of the House of Representatives is not willing to stand for these principles, well, it needs to be replaced by one that will. I yield back.